Testing 1 2. Man, see, it's summertime here in Arizona, and it's really hot. And so you'll be hearing my air conditioner go off. It's loud. I got 2 big air conditioners. So this is why I'm not worried about global warming, because I'm very comfortable. I'm actually cold right now, even though it's hot outside. I have a 1 o'clock tea time, which is in just under 3 hours. So I got to finish this within 2 hours to get ready to... And then I have to drive an hour to get to the golf course. And then it's supposed to thunderstorm. So this might be the last time you see me. Which people on the line, the Transatlantic show, they'll love it if I get hit by lightning today. I honestly think they wish me dead. Isn't that crazy? I mean, they don't wish me dead, but I bet you if I were to die, they wouldn't be that sad. They would be, oh, good. Don't have to listen to that crazy transphobe anymore. Yeah, it is hot enough for me. This is the best debate I've heard in a long, long time. It was Destiny and Trent Horn. I think when did this take place? July 27th? A few days ago on the Whatever channel. Here's what I don't get. Hold it, is this it? This is not the one. Where is it? How come now I'm getting confused. Is there more than one of these things? I want to make sure I have the right one. There was one where there's a window in the background. And there was noise background, and there was a guy. That wasn't it. That has to be the one. Why does it look different to me? And I want to give you my 2 cents on how to deal with, I think that has to be it. That's Trent's review of it. Yeah, that has to be it.
For unborn children.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure I had the right one. The main difference between Trent Horn and Destiny on a topic like abortion is this whole concept of value. Pinecreek Politics looks cute today. Thank you. I cut my own hair. This guy here, Trent Horn, he's a Christian Catholic, but he avoided God like the plague. Ooh, that sounds weird. In this debate, because he wants to be able to debate abortion based on, dare I say, secular arguments. But the main difference between guys like him and Destiny is value is ontological. You're valuable for merely being a human, whereas Destiny would say, no, you're valuable not for merely being a human, but for having consciousness. And that's the main difference between these two. I would take it a step further that, and this bothers people, it really does bother people, but I think it's the truth. You're valuable based on what you do. Not just being a human, but being a human that does things that benefit society. And that angers a lot of people. It angers Christians and also angers atheists, secularists. Because whether people admit it or not, if you have to see one of 2 people die in society, a homeless person who commits crimes, let's say, or just say a criminal, or a doctor who saves life, a surgeon who saves lives, and you hear on the news that one of them died, which one do you want to have died? Be honest with yourself. It takes a strong person to be able to say the truth like that. We're okay with seeing criminals die. It's not that bad, depending on the criminal. Right? So there's a hierarchy of what we will be sad with, what we will be disappointed with in society, of who dies, who doesn't. And this is applicable to the abortion debate because the value of humans is like a curve. It starts off when the zygote is formed, Starts out the value is very low, and it peaks around 40 years old when you are doing the most in society, and then it wanes off as you get older. This is the truth. And from the Christian perspective, value is, here's the zygote, here's death, value stays constant. Your ontological value stays the same because you are human, and God has created you in his image. For destiny, the value is like almost zero, and then as soon as consciousness happens at 20 weeks, it goes beep, it goes up, and then I think flatlines unless you get sick or mentally ill, whatever, you lose part of your brain, get Alzheimer's, then maybe your value goes down. I don't know. But I think that's the fundamental difference between destiny and Trent Horn on this issue. Where I come out on the abortion debate is you should just say it's always bad, always immoral, even at the earliest stages. But then you should also say, I'm phrasing it as should, you can do whatever you want. But then say, but it's not that bad when you're just killing a 6-celled zygote or a 12-celled blastocyst. Yeah, it's bad, it's immoral, but it's not that bad. I actually think this is very practical and a great way to deal with the abortion debate. And let's be clear. Anytime there's an abortion, it's because humans have screwed up. Right? You make a mistake, and then that's why you need an abortion. If people stopped making mistakes, you wouldn't need abortion. And this is why I have no problem blaming women and men for making mistakes. But Doug, we all make mistakes. Yes, but especially don't make the same mistake twice. My grandpappy taught me, according to my dad. It's okay to make mistakes, but never, ever make the same mistake twice if you can't. I mean, you got to learn from them. So take responsibility and admit to yourself, if you're a woman and you need an abortion, you made a mistake. Take responsibility. And don't be a goofball and make the same mistake twice. I can talk this way because I value women, and I don't have to walk on eggshells because I know they can handle it. Using a sense of value to just forward the debate, Danny? Yeah, but Trent Horn really does believe what he's talking about here, that whether you're conscious or not, just the fact that you're human, you're valuable, and that's why it's wrong. But the real reason why he's against abortion, the real reason is because God doesn't like it. God gets sad when he sees it. God has decreed it, that this is a sin. That's the real reason. But he doesn't bring that up here. Well, actually, hang on. Is that the real reason, or is that an excuse he makes because he happens to be Catholic? Maybe the real reason is more fundamental, that we have evolved with these intuitions. And they talk about intuitions too. But I want to play a part which I thought was the most interesting, and I'm not sure if I'm going to play much more. I haven't seen this. Destiny reflects on it. I want to see what he has to think. But I think this is the way you tackle it, and Destiny does it here when talking about punishments.
And men typically provide by expending calories to work to provide resources for the mother and child. So that's I think that's how I would go through there.
Gotcha.
I
do have one. I actually do have one question for you, Trent.
Okay.
From a legislative perspective, so would you like to see abortion made illegal?
I would like to see the fetuses that are wanted. So the fetuses that are wanted, I would just want the unwanted ones to be treated the same way. So in places where we say, yeah, if a guy,
Come on, Trent, just say yes.
Kills a pregnant woman, that's so sad. She wanted that baby. Like, we need justice for that, or we protect those children, or we provide medical care even before 20 weeks even to help these children. I would just want the law. The law already provides protection for wanted fetuses. I would just want it to extend the same thing to the unwanted ones.
Do you think it'd be fair to give a woman the death penalty if she had an abortion for her twins?
Well, I don't believe in the death penalty in general.
Do you think it'd be fair to put her in jail for life?
This
maybe,
is how you do it.
Depends. I guess I might say maybe the penalty we give for an abortion. Well, for example, there was a woman in Nebraska a few weeks ago. She got an abortion at 29 weeks. And she texted her mom. One of the reasons she did it was because she was really excited to be able to fit back into her genes again. Mm-hmm. So do you think she should be legally punished?
For 29 weeks?
Yes.
Sure.
How much?
Whatever infanticide the punishment would be.
I would say the same.
But you would say the same for 1 week?
Yeah. Well, I would say that the punishments that we give at 1 week, we can't even get an abortion at 1 week.
5 weeks.
I would say that the law and how we apply it, it's going to...
You can't... See, this is crazy. Destiny should have said, well, what should the fine be if in an in vitro fertilization clinic, someone takes a fertilized egg, a zygote, and flushes it down the toilet? What should the punishment be? In my opinion, forget about everything else. If I was Destiny, I would say abortion is always, always wrong. It's always immoral. But now let's talk about punishments, because that's what matters. In fact, I came up with this analogy here. You guys tell me what you think. I think both sides are going to hate this analogy, but I kind of like it. I think an abortion, when it comes to punishments, is like speeding. The speed limit on Interstate 10 here is 75 miles an hour. If you go 76 miles an hour, you're above the speed limit and you are breaking the law. Now, if you are a law-abiding citizen, you don't want to break the law, right? But is it that bad to go 76 in a 75 zone? No. In fact, you could probably see a cop car on the side and you know you're going 76 and the speed limit is 75 and you can blow right by them going 1 mile an hour over the speed limit. Very confident the police officer is going to do absolutely nothing because it's 76. Just the air pressure in your tires can account for different speed differences. Okay, what about 80? Speed limit 75, now you're going 80. Again, it's bad, but it's not that bad. It's worse than going 76. In fact, every 10 miles an hour faster you go on the interstate doubles the fatalities of car crashes. Did you know that? So 80 miles an hour, worse. 90, much worse. 100, much, much worse. This is the same with abortion. Killing a zygote in a test tube, killing a blastocyst in a test tube is like going 76 miles an hour when you have a 75 mile an hour speed limit. You can even make it against the law to have an abortion, but who cares? What should the punishment be for going 76 miles an hour in a 75 zone? Nothing, right? Now you're going 80. That's like, let's say, 1 week. 1 week into development of a fetus. Okay, it's worse than going 76. It's still not that bad. Not that bad. Just like the fetus has the potential to become a productive member of society, going 80 there's a potential that you might get in a crash and cause a fatality. This is the way you debate the abortion debate. I would just give Trent Horn that it's wrong, it's immoral, and then say, let's talk punishments. Because that's where the rubber hits the road. And I think the debate's very quickly over at that point. Because our moral intuitions, I think most people's moral intuitions would say, it's really not that bad to throw a zygote down the sink. Like, God will be sad, sure, but what has society really lost? Well, it could be the next Einstein, right? Yeah, but you're never going to know, and there's always going to be another Einstein come along.
Going to be different based on, like in that example, that woman seemed very callous, very uncaring. Another woman in another case, she might respond differently.
Sure. I'm talking strictly in the case of murder, not or no, even in the, well, give me the other example. I'm curious. Because no, go ahead. I'll let you. What was the other example you were going to give?
Oh, I don't think I mean, I wasn't giving another example. I'm just saying there's going to be a lot of different cases. But
in any of these cases, would we excuse the murder of a 1-year-old child?
No, we wouldn't. I would say that we do end up giving different punishments. I know that people who kill 5-year-olds or 10-year-olds, sometimes the punishment there is different than like a newborn infant, for example. So I don't know exactly what it should be, but I do think that we should treat the deliberate killing of human beings before birth that can be established even early on, let's say 5 or 6 weeks, we should treat it with serious gravity, even on par with serious 20
gravity. I'm asking,
weeks.
It should be the same as a 5-week-old abortion. I think should be treated the same in your view as a 5-year-old child murder.
Yeah, I think that they should both be treated the same. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that even if pro-lifers were
and this is where Trent Horn will lose people, because it just doesn't, what word can you use, doesn't sit right, doesn't feel right. 5 weeks compared to a 1-year-old, no, one is clearly more wrong. This is the problem with Christianity, theism in general, and the ontological argument against abortion, is they basically forget about the whole concept of more wrong and less wrong. It's either wrong or it's not wrong, because God said so. Of course, he's not going to mention God here, but it's either wrong or it's not wrong. This whole idea of, well, this is way more wrong than that. It's very hard, I think, for a lot of theists to think in those terms.
Mistaken about what kind of punishments that we would give. It wouldn't show that the pro-choice position is incorrect. Someone could believe in animal rights, for example, and be inconsistent on how to punish people for what they do with animals, things like that. Even if someone were inconsistent, and I don't think that it's inconsistent,
sure,
we should, it should be treated with a certain gravity. Though I also think that the laws that we pass now, right now, they do tend to focus more on the abortion providers because we live in a weird time.
Sure, but I'm just asking, like, what did the two cell thing look like again? I like the book. Yeah. The zygote. I like.
This is great because Trent brought this book, and I love pictures. Everybody loves pictures, right? Unless you're blind. And so he showed the development and showed a picture to Destiny that at 20 weeks, this is what it looks like. You think it's okay to kill 19 weeks this little baby? But you can use pictures like that right back on theists like Trent.
See the thing?
Sure, of course.
Okay. So a woman that takes Plan B to get rid of maybe something like this would suffer the same legal penalty as a woman that murders her 5-year-old child.
Yeah, I think there could be...
Yeah, he said. Yeah. 5-year-old child and that blastocyst, same penalty. This is why I think my analogy of speeding is good. You would give the same penalty for someone going 120 miles an hour on the freeway versus 76? Where's your sense of proportionality here? One is clearly different than the other.
Who murders their 5-year-old child, like out of the womb? I think a jury might find things to be a little bit different.
They'd both be charged with first-degree murder of a human being. Plan B, it's literally premeditation. You go to take the pill. You really want to fit in your genes. Versus one with a 5-year-old who's just like tired of it. They're too annoying. They don't want to deal with it anymore. Murders a child. So that thing and then the 5-year-old child are treated the same in the eyes of the law. The Plan B versus the murdering of the child.
No, because I would say that even among born people, based on the level of indifference that required, the level of knowledge that a person has, even if you look at among born victims of violence, would you agree that among born victims of violence, the punishment that is given, it's going to be different based on the
I think
person
all of these
involved.
are, I think it's a equivocation here.
No, like
I think that very clearly. If somebody says, do you think that the penalty for murdering a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old and a 25-year-old should be the same? I would say, yeah, it's murder. Of course, they should be treated the same. Now, are there going to be aggravating or mitigating factors in any murder? Of course, but substantially, I wouldn't change the difference between the murder of a 5-year-old, 15-year-old, 25-year-old, and you would agree, but it would be 25-year-old, 15-year-old, 5-year-old, and 5-cell organism for you. It would all be treated the exact same as the law.
Do you think a woman who gives birth at prom baby birth, and throws in the dumpster, should she get the same punishment as someone who deliberately kills their 25-year-old husband to get his insurance?
Tuck says this makes female slaves to speed limit enforcement. No. Tux, you do realize I'm not saying we should lock up women. But this is an argument how you get guys like Trent Horn to think. Because if you were to set up a lie detector on Trent Horn and ask him, do you really think it's just as bad to kill the zygote on the laboratory bench in an IVF clinic versus a 5-year-old? Do you really believe ontologically these are both as evil, both as bad, both as immoral, and should deserve both the same type of punishment? And he's hooked up to a lie detector. I bet you a lot of money Trent Horn doesn't even believe that. He will say, no, one is different than the other. One should be punished more than the other. One is more wrong than the other. You want to try Trent Horn if you're listening to this on the replay? You willing to go get yourself hooked up to a lie detector and state whether you really believe they deserve the same punishments? I bet you would fail if you said yes. Because your moral intuitions can't be that much different than most people's. And we realize that there's a difference. And what's the difference exactly? Someone asked that in the live stream chat. The difference is parents have a relationship with a 5-year-old. They spent 5 years with this child. They see the child smile. They see the child cry. They have experiences with the child, running around, playing, accomplishing, reading, learning. You don't have that with a zygote in a test tube. This is why it's more wrong to kill the 5-year-old than a blastocyst. Because you don't have any relationship with the blastocyst. This is why the ontological argument that it's wrong just because it's a living human fails.
Insurance policy or something like that.
So you added a lot in there.
Okay, fine.
In terms of
fine.
Aggravating. No, because there's aggravating factors deliberately kill somebody for an insurance policy versus mitigating factors of like delivers during a during a prom or whatever, right? There can be aggravating or mitigating factors that influence how we view a particular crime. Same as the killing of 2 of the same 5-year-olds. Yeah. But I'm saying like a plan B. Plan B is the same as going to the store, buying a thing of bleach, going home, force feeding it to your kid, and then watching them die.
We don't know that exactly because Plan B has multiple ways of acting.
See, and this is Trent Horn knows that this is he's kind of stuck here, and so he's like picking. He's like a little bird with a beak. He's picking problems with these analogies here and here and here. He realizes this is devastating because he knows that the 5-year-old is worth more than that blastocyst, that little picture he brought up before. He knows this, and he's kind of stuck now. What do I do? There's no way you should punish anyone for killing that blastocyst to the same degree as killing a 5-year-old. No, the more interesting dilemma is, what about a 5-year-old versus a 50-year-old? That's when things get really fun. But I think it's these extreme examples of, let's say, the 5-day-old versus the 5-year-old is good, because it is an extreme example. But even if you were to take people who are already alive outside the womb, like why do leaders of the world? Why does President Biden have the CIA protecting him? Is there like a, what is it, $1 million Cadillac that he drives that's bulletproof? I'll tell you why. Because the President of the United States, his life is worth more than mine and everybody here in this live stream chat. He's worth more. He's more valuable. Even if, and Idly and right, I'm a right winger. I'm a transphobe. And I can say that. This is why we protect presidents with guns, because they're more valuable.
It could stop the egg from ovulating.
Sure.
It could prevent
stop
the sperm from
implantation.
It could. Yeah, I would say that'd be more like grave indifference, like if you chuck a rock off a freeway overpass or something like that. So, but
well, no, hold on. When you take Plan B, it's not the hopes that potentially maybe blah blah. Like you're very specifically trying to effect a certain outcome.
Am I?
Right? Much the same that it would be like throwing a rock off an overpass at a kid.
No, the outcome could be just preventing yourself from ovulating.
It could be.
Yeah, it's just to not become pregnant.
But the
Sneed McFeed asked a great question. So when everybody thought black people were worthless, was it correct? That reminds me of that Kim and Peele skit where three black guys are on auction, and they go, I don't want to be sold on auction. I'm a free man. I mean, I don't want to. This slavery thing is terrible. And then this big black guy goes up there and he gets immediately sold for like $10 or whatever, and nobody wants to bid on them, and they start to get jealous. It's like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, why don't they want to buy me? I mean, I'm worth something too. But I bet you, even in the slave trade, if you were to put up white people who are maybe not slave owners, but just, you know, a lot of black people would be worth more than white people on an auction.
That could also be the preventing of the implantation. So the fertilized egg just goes out, right? In some, yeah.
But I feel like we're working, these kinds of questions I feel like work backwards. So it's like,
yes,
is this individual a person? Mm-hmm. Like there's two questions. Is this individual a person? And what should the punishments be for harming this person? Mm-hmm. I feel like we don't.
No, I think in dollar values, most people are worth, I think, closer to $8 million, like in body parts. And it depends on their age and so forth. Like if, where do I get that from? When if a big airliner goes down and people die, I think the payouts to the family and if it's the airline's fault or somewhat their fault, I think the average is around $8.5 million per head.
We don't answer the punishment. We don't get the answer of the person question by answering the punishment one first. We answer, is this a person or not, first, and then we figure out everything else. Otherwise, we're working backwards with our intuitions.
I kind of agree, but I would argue that you were working backwards from intuitions as well when you presuppose a human body that exists. When you presuppose a human body that exists without like parts of its brain, which I would argue is not even necessarily a human, that you can probably remove enough parts of a person and you ship-a-thesis them into another type of organism. So if you want to work backwards from that, then obviously I'm going to ask you similar questions and work backwards from intuition around like our ability to harm people, right? Because I actually think, even though it sounds strange and it sounds like it's working backwards, I actually think it's hitting at the core of the issue. When we think of harming, we think of a conscious experience that's being harmed, that's being hurt, right? If I harm a person, I'm not thinking of like poking a person that is a corpse, right?
But people could have massively incorrect intuitions. I remember a scene from The Adventures of Huckleberry.
When I first heard this, when he said people can have massively incorrect intuitions, I don't know where it is. I don't want to try to find it. But Trent was talking about why humans are valuable ontologically for just being human. He was appealing to moral intuitions, that morality is objective because of these intuitions. And now he's saying it can be massively wrong. Now, I'm a speciesist. So I actually agree with Trent Horn. I would say if I was to put a scale on it, I'm 95% Destiny, 5% Trent. Like, and I think even Destiny is 5% Trent. I value humans more than other mammals. I just do. Why? I don't know. Because probably I've evolved to. I'm programmed to. So I do think that humans, all else equal, are more valuable than dolphins, cows, chickens, whatever animal it is. Even if there is a animal that's more intelligent than a specific human being, because of the way I have evolved, my moral intuitions will still value a human over another species. But amongst our species, amongst Homo sapiens, there's definitely differences in value. We're not all created equal. Some people, if they were dead, it would be better for society. I think that's just clear. Everybody knows this, but most people are scared to say it. So there is a value distribution of humans. And so you can't just say all humans are equally valuable.
Very Finn, where Huck, I think it's Aunt Polly, he tells her in the book, oh, there was a steamship that exploded. And she said, oh, did anyone die? He said, no, just a few Negroes. Well, that's not exactly what she said, but you get the point. And Aunt Polly says, oh, good, I'm glad nobody got hurt. So people can have massively incorrect intuitions.
I don't think they can in your world, though, because you told me that you're a moral realist who relies on people's intuitions, and you're saying that any two people's intuitions should be sufficiently similar enough to agree on objective moral fact.
No, that would be on basic intuitions. Like,
yeah, but what's basic?
Yeah, tell me the different types.
Sure there are. Like, just to say that we ought to do good and not evil. That's the most basic intuition of them all.
Yeah, but what's good and what's evil?
Begging the question. The things we ought to do are by definition good. A good thing is the thing you ought to do. It's like saying murder is unjustified when murder is defined as the unjust killing of somebody, right?
There are things you ought to do irrespective of the consequences to you, for example. Even if you end up suffering a great deal, in some cases there's things you ought to do or refrain from because it just is good. Things like that. But then, like, for example, you ought not directly kill an innocent human being. Like, that's just a general intuition everybody shares.
Unless God tells you to.
But can you kill human beings in war, for example, because you don't mean to, but you're trying to destroy an enemy base? It's going to be a little bit more difficult in the applied cases, but we have the most basic intuition. So for me, if the basic intuition is that we don't kill infants, all right, we don't kill adults, we don't kill disabled humans, we do kill pigs and cows and other non-human animals. Why is that? To me, the only explanation, it cannot be rooted in consciousness.
A red flag should always go up when you hear the phrase, the only explanation. You should, no matter what Trent says after this, you should be suspicious.
Because what is the relevant difference between those non-human animals and the human beings? I know you say human consciousness, but there's a difference between human consciousness and a human who is conscious. Right?
Yeah. I just think that some of these intuitions that you're hitting at, for taking such a solid, I guess, realist position on morality, it feels like we can find, even fundamentally, somebody could argue, for instance, in the animal world, if, I think I saw a video of a cheetah where when the babies are born, they lick them, they try to get them to kind of like move, and sometimes the baby can't move, so the cheetah will just abandon the baby and walk away.
Right.
So who's to say if a person says, well, I think intuitively, if a kid can't walk, then the kid isn't entitled to anything. Like if you have to retreat from an area, if you need to go hunt and gather, if a child can't walk, then you leave them. What if somebody comes at you with an intuition like that? Say there's a tribe where those intuitions exist. How do you figure out whose intuition is correct?
Well, we look at how we've come to understand human beings, and there might be really
my intuitions are better than your intuitions.
Rare cases where you only have enough food to feed certain people.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying.
Are you saying they're killing the? They
just leave them there. Yeah, they abandon the child.
Why do they abandon the child? Because they're not able to care for the child.
Because the child can't move. So
here's an example of, I think, Trent being stuck, and he's like a little bird with a beak picking, trying to find faults in the analogy. The point Destiny's making here is that you can have cultures with vastly different intuitions. So how can you say that we have this thing called objective morality?
I feel like until the child can move and like acquire resources for itself, the child's not really worthy of participating in the social contract, participating in that tribe. So up until the child can move,
they're wrong. We would call that barbaric.
Okay, but why? Under what objective ground?
I find this funny because you can just easily say right back to Trent that anything he believes from his moral intuitions is wrong. You're barbaric. You're barbaric. And I think Destiny even brings this up here. Let's see.
Objective ground that all human beings have dignity no matter. And in fact, that was the difference in ancient Rome 2,000 years ago. The Romans did.
Where does Trent get this, that all humans have dignity? Where does he get that from? His moral intuitions or his holy book?
Did place disabled children in the wilderness for them to be eaten by animals, and Christians went and rescued them because they recognized all human beings have this dignity regardless of what they can do.
Yep. But I'm asking you, how do you resolve that difference, that disagreement in intuition? I don't think you can. You can say it's wrong or barbaric.
But that's the same thing. You could have somebody who says, look, I think that marriage just means you have 24/7 access to your wife. So
hold on, we don't need another analogy. Just on that example, somebody says if it's a disabled child, if they can't walk on their own, I should be able to just leave it and carry on because the child's never going to be able to walk or whatever. Why are they wrong? That's their intuition. Their intuition points there. The reason why I'm highlighting this, because you told me earlier that you made it seem like...
Because then we could use reasoning on it. We could say, look, when you as an adult, when you get injured, we try to help you out. We don't abandon you. So then there's an example where we might apply moral reasoning to help them see they're being incoherent, for example. Why wouldn't you apply this to someone who's just a younger version of you, for example?
But they'll say, well, I can walk again. What about for disabled children? You said the Romans did this. They left a disabled child.
Right.
And then what if you say to the person, well, you wouldn't want this to happen if you were disabled? And they're like, yeah, that's part of the agreement, actually. If I was disabled, I would expect to be left.
Yeah, I would agree. And like I said, there's going to be cases where people have a consistent, horrifying morality. They're going to end
horrifying is absolutely begging the question. I'm not asking.
Yeah, I think it's horrifying to leave children just because you can't stand the side of their disability and you think they're not worthy because
that
of it.
might be the case, but they might argue that it's horrifying that maybe they.
Okay, I want to go to
having an experience.
I have in my notes here, great question by Destiny, but I forget what the question was. And it's around here somewhere.
But I would say what makes you a person is not the moment you have the experience, but that you're the kind of being who can have those experiences. Just as someone who is brain dead is the kind of being who will never have those experiences. An
what
embryo
is the difference between what's the difference between an embryo and a corpse?
A corpse, the difference is a corpse is a human organism that has lost organic unity. Okay. The parts don't work together for the good of the whole. And so it will decompose.
Okay.
It will lose composition. It will fall apart. An embryo is a living organism. Its parts work together to grow other parts. When it becomes sophisticated enough, it will grow a brain to take over, to keep development going.
That's only with the help of the mother, though, right?
Well, all of us need our mom's help when we're little. We need to be fed. We need to be
nothing else past birth needs to be connected biologically to another thing. Right. So whatever definition you give of the zygote, the single cell, the union, I would argue you could give that same definition for a sperm or an egg. You can argue that a sperm or an egg on its own will never develop into anything. The sperm or the egg need an egg or a sperm. However, the fetus will never develop into anything. It needs the sustenance from the mother. Right.
So here's the difference. I believe that something is an organism if you can give it time, nutrition, and a proper environment, and it has the capacity to develop.
What Destiny is very cleverly doing here is he's showing that a sperm, an egg, is more like a zygote than a 5-year-old.
Develop into a mature member of a species. And it only needs those three things: time, nutrition, proper environment. However,
that's great, but that's entirely arbitrary.
Why? Because it's a definition of an organism. It's different. That's why sperm and egg and cancer cells, they are body parts. You give them time, nutrients, and environment, they'll always be that same type of thing. They cannot develop.
It depends on how we define environment, right? Because a sperm put in the environment of an egg will eventually join and become, as it grows with inside the womb, into something like a human eventually, right?
Right, but I would say that when the sperm and the egg combine.
So what Destiny's saying here, if it's wrong to kill a zygote, isn't it wrong to kill a sperm?
the sperm and egg no longer exist anymore. They've undergone a substantial change. They're defined as being...
What do you think is more different, a sperm or a one-celled organism from a 9-month baby? What do you think is more different there?
Wait, come again?
There's one sperm or one egg. What's more different? The one sperm and the one egg to the zygote, or the zygote to the 9-month fetus?
They are different in a myriad of ways. So,
sure, but your argument, you're saying that
they're different in myriad ways, but which is more different? This is so brilliant by Destiny, because again, if you were to hook up Trent Horn to a lie detector, it's painfully obvious that a zygote is more like an egg or a sperm than it is a 5-year-old, which is getting to, I guess the right word is ontological. They're ontologically different, the 5-year-old and the zygote.
that 9-month fetus is more in common with the single-cell zygote than a sperm or an egg has with a single-cell zygote.
A 9-month fetus and zygote are the same kind of thing because the words zygote...
Same kind of thing. When I first heard this, I was thinking of Ken Ham and evolution, kinds.
And fetus, if you look them up, would say this is the stage of development in the life of a human being. So a 9-month fetus and a zygote are very different. One's going to have billions of more cells, for example. But a sperm and egg and a zygote, the difference there is greater because we're not talking about degree. Like a zygote and a fetus, they're different in degrees, more cells, more abilities. But the sperm, egg, and the human embryo, they're different in kind. These are organs. They're body parts. They're not a whole body.
I understand what you're saying. I don't know if I'm pushing you on the arbitrariness of your saying a difference in kind, because that single cell organism is nothing in kind. It's got genes, it's got a genetic profile, but without the nutrients from the mom, it'll grow into 2, 4, 8 cells and then die. So in your world, the in kind of that single cell,
if you don't give nutrients to an infant, what will happen to them?
The infant could die as well.
Could or will.
But that conscious experience is already there, so it escapes my issue.
No, but I'm saying that the point you're making, I don't see how it shows that the embryo is not a person or doesn't have moral value just because
I'm just
humans
saying,
at that stage are
you have a
needed.
strange definition of time, nutrition, and proper environment, and then you are drawing an arbitrary border around...
I'm saying that's what makes something an organism.
Yeah, but we're not arguing over something being an organism or not, right? We're arguing over when something gets personhood. Right?
Yeah, and I'm saying persons are kinds of organisms. Mm-hmm. A person is a kind of being capable of rational existence.
Well...
Yeah.
Rational existence. A zygote has rational existence?
It's a kind of being capable of rational existence, but though that stops when the being is dead. Correct?
Right, because the being doesn't exist anymore. It's gone back to body parts.
Well, it does exist. Or what do you mean it doesn't exist?
I would say that...
What part stops existing?
The organic unity. So when you are dead, so if you... when I die, however you want to define that, let's say,
well, that's pretty important.
It is important, yeah. But just because we can't define the moment when somebody dies, we know the difference between dead people and living people. Dead people, their bodies start to decompose because why that's wrong is because that human fetus has a right to properly develop in virtue of being a person. And I think it's a very strong...
Yeah, they didn't... The word rights were brought up, but as soon as I hear the word rights... I like to remind people that all rights come from humans. So if humans say you don't have a right to something, guess what? You don't have a right to it. Especially as an atheist who doesn't believe there's any gods saying, decreeing, here's your rights. No, you have no rights other than what society deems it so. There's no inherent rights other than what society gives you. And if you disagree with that, fine. But at least you have to admit this, I think, that the enforcement of all rights is done by humans. So even if you say rights come from outside of humans, it seems like humans are stuck with the responsibility to enforce them, to even encode them, to put it on paper, to punish when you go against them.
Strong moral intuition most people would share.
Sure. Do you think that if Do you think if it was the case that a fetus were to grow 8, 16, 32 to 64 cells in size, and then it had some kind of deformation, or it wasn't able to develop past that point, do you think we have a moral obligation to deliver the 64 cell organism and then keep it alive in a dish for as long as we can, assuming we could deliver it?
I think we have a moral obligation to provide medical care to sick humans. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I gave the example, like we provide spina bifida treatments. Even I think we could do it possibly before the 20-week cutoff. Like we could start having medical technology for fetuses before 20 weeks.
Sure. And I'm not, to be clear, I'm not talking about any of that. I just, to be very, very, very clear, what I'm saying is a woman is having trouble, maybe the pregnancy is not going okay, but we have the ability to keep any organism alive in a petri dish for as long as we want. You would say there's a moral obligation to safely deliver, using a microscope and tweezers or whatever, a 64 cell organism and put it in a petri dish and then provide nutrients and keep that thing alive until the end of its natural metabolic
No, I think
function.
that we should provide proportionate medical care.
Why? Why proportionate medical care? This is a human. This is a person, according to Trent Horn. This is an excellent question by Destiny, because imagine this. You got a 5-year-old who has some type of disease. I think Trent Horn would say we should do whatever we can to help this 5-year-old survive, be comfortable. This is a human. This is a person who's suffering. We should work hard to keep them alive. Would you say that about a 16-cell blastocyst? It's in the IVF clinic, and scientists, doctors, they're looking, and there's some type of genetic disorder thing going on here. I don't know what's going on. Would you think Trent Horn would actually say we should spend resources to keep this 16-cell thing alive, this blastocyst, provide it nutrition and everything, do whatever we can, to the same degree as a 5-year-old? This gets to, it just takes a sledgehammer to this thing about, you think they're equally valuable? They are not. Nobody, well, I shouldn't say nobody, almost nobody in society would say we should treat them the same medically.
So, for example, when my wife and I were dealing with miscarriage, like our child almost miscarried, we rushed to get progesterone to inject her with it. It's thick as concrete. It's rough to administer. But we were doing that to save the life of that actual child who might have been only a few cells, more than 64, because most people figure it out. It's a lot older than that.
Actually, yeah, but would you call a 64-celled fetus, or Trent, a child? Like, it's so loaded, the language, because if you close your eyes and I say the word child, what do you think of? You think of arms, legs, fingers, head, eyes, little mouth, chubby cheeks, right? Do you think of a ball with 16 cells or 64 cells? No, you do not.
I have an interesting question.
Wait, no. You
Go
can
ahead.
ask the question, write it down. Because you used a word here to escape that. Wait, on the book, can you show me what the 1 week thing looks like?
Yeah, sure.
Or what's the...
I actually would love, man in charge, I would love if you were to come on. You made the claim a blastocyst has the same value as a 5-year-old. I bet you I could ask you questions that you would back down on that. For example, your 5-year-old, if you have a 5-year-old or ever did, versus a blastocyst in a in vitro fertilization clinic. I'm a dictator of the world, and I'm capricious. I'm evil, and I say one of them has to die. And let's say it's your blastocyst. Your child, 5 years old, your blastocyst. Which one should I kill as dictator of the world? Be very honest with your answer, and then tell me why. I dare you. You get some tissue because you're going to start crying because you're going to know I'm right.
Sure, the earliest picture.
Yeah, sure, I've got that right here. Here, yeah. This would be
this guy. So I'm asking if you have to deliver that.
So this.
Look at this. Okay, this is for you. What's your name? The man in charge. You said a blastocyst has the same value as a 5-year-old. Here's a blastocyst. Here's a picture. See it? I'm going to kill either your 5-year-old child or your 64-celled blastocyst. Which one do you want me to kill? And then tell me why. What's your reasoning? Then I dare you to say that they have the same value after you make your decision.
To be a notice, yeah, this says a new human being.
Yep.
Right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if we had the technology to deliver that, and the care was quite simple, you just water the dish and maybe put a couple of nutrients in the dish, and you could keep that alive for 5 to 10 years. You'd be just as morally obligated to keep that alive in a petri dish than you would for a child that might be born a little bit unhealthy, keeping that alive.
I don't know if we're morally obligated to sustain the life of a human being by putting them essentially in a freezer.
It's not a freezer, it'd be a petri dish. You could play music for it if you want.
Probably wouldn't do very much good at that stage, but the music, I would say.
Sure, but your position, because now you're relying on human intuition a lot. You're trying to say that like it's so obvious that there's a life, but now when I've challenged you to putting that thing in a petri dish and watering it, if I were to ask you the same question about, let's say a child is born and it's only going to live to be 6 months to 1 year old.
Right.
I'm a parent, you're a parent. Both of us would probably say, yeah, do everything you can for it. You can't just kill it, even if it's going to die at an early age.
Right.
But now I'm asking you for the 64-cell organism. We have the same obligation for that in a petri dish.
Yeah, but you could have all.
Yeah, and this is what people do when I ask questions that make them uncomfortable. Emotional appeals are not the end all be all. Why can't you just say, Doug, if you had to destroy a 64-cell blastocyst or my child, I would ask you please kindly to destroy the 64-cell blastocyst. Why can't you just say that? And then I ask, why? Tell me why. Do you want me to spare your 5-year-old over the 64-celled? Then you're going to start talking about, because I love my 5-year-old. I have a relationship with my 5-year-old. I would miss my 5-year-old. Would you miss a 64-celled blastocyst? Do you have a relationship with a 64-celled blastocyst? No. And I would congratulate you for giving good reasons. So this is why I say you can say all abortion is bad, immoral, and even evil. But one is more bad than the other. Killing a 5-month-old, a 5-year-old, a 5-month in the womb is worse than killing a 5-day blastocyst. It is. So this ontological thing of, well, it's a human, and so killing all humans is wrong. You got to get that out of your head and start talking about more wrong, less wrong. And I know for theists, this is, especially Christians, this is next to impossible, because it's, for you, morality is an on and off switch. It's either 100% moral or 100% immoral. There is no in between. I mean, God has said this. Who cares what God thinks? He's going to judge us in the afterlife, right? Even as I can put myself in your worldview. Let him send people to hell who he wants, reward them in heaven the way he wants. Who cares what God says? We got to make decisions here on planet Earth. It seems like he's up in heaven, folded arms anyhow, not intervening. So we got to make these decisions. So when the rubber hits the road, it's about punishments. It's about making laws. Are we really going to make a law that says that whether you kill a 5-year-old outside the womb or a 5-day-old inside the womb, that the punishment should be the same? Really? You want to go there?
All these examples where we don't know what to do. What if they said, hey, Destiny, for your child, we don't know if we can save them, but if you put them in this cryo tank, in 200 years, we think they'll come up with a cure.
I agree, it would be hard, but that's why, to quote you earlier, it's just a hypothetical. So earlier you asked me about a child born missing parts of its brain that we could inject a drug to give it more of a brain in the future. That's a pretty crazy hypothetical. So now I'm asking you an equally crazy hypothetical. A 64-cell organism is born. Do we have an obligation to keep it alive in a petri dish indefinitely?
Because some hypotheticals are going to be closer to reality than others. Brain transplants and swaps are pretty far away. Cryogenetics is closer, but still not quite there. And the example I gave is just, is it wrong to take a healthy fetus and cause them to be permanently unconscious? That's pretty. We lobotomize born people. It's not that far out of the realm.
Lobotomies do not mean a loss of consciousness. When you say healthy fetus, it implies healthy functioning brain function. So
right,
again,
I'm
we're
saying,
using a lot of
but
words.
if it's before 20 weeks, there's no person there. You could destroy the brain, the developing brain.
Correct.
There's no problem.
Yeah, but in your world, if a 60...
See, if I was debating Trent, I would say, yeah, that's wrong. Now what?
For a cell thing was born, it needs to be kept alive in a petri dish until...
It's all about punishments. It's kind of hilarious when people talk about what's right and what's wrong, because if you have no punishments behind it, no consequences behind it, who cares? Who cares if something is right or wrong? What makes it valuable is the consequences that follow from it. We do what's right because of the consequences that follow it. We try to avoid what's wrong because of the consequences that follow it. And this is probably the difference between, I guess, me, who's more of a pragmatist, a consequentialist, versus like a virtue ethicist. It's like, no, we should do what's right, even if the consequences are not there. We should avoid doing what's wrong, even if there's no consequence. It's like, because it just, I don't know, what's the reason to do what's right and what's wrong if there's no consequence? Just because you can't even say because it makes you feel good, because that's a consequence. You can't say because it makes God happy, because that's a consequence. Like, this whole idea of what's right and wrong is almost meaningless in a vacuum, right? It is about consequences.
Natural metabolic function cease.
No, we should provide medical care for human beings prior to birth. We might disagree about what kind of care that is. Let's take, for example, though, fetal alcohol syndrome.
Okay.
Now, under your view, here's what I'm curious about. You've given the analogy before that drinking while pregnant, that doesn't harm an individual, it harms the person in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you hang a piano.
By the way, this is a great argument for pro-life people to give. I love it. I love this argument. You see a pregnant lady in a restaurant, smoking, drinking. Question, is that wrong? Most pro-choice people say, yeah, that's wrong. Why? Her body, her choice. Right? Yeah, but she's pregnant. So what? Her body, her choice. Like, well, pro-choice. There's probably pro-choice people in the live stream chat. How would you respond to that? And I think Trent brings this argument here, but I don't quite remember. There was one other thing I wanted to show, and then I want to get the Destiny's take on it. It's wrong because you're hurting the fetus, the baby inside the womb. That's why it's wrong.
Don't like the one where a woman that has an abortion of a whatever that was or takes Plan B might be charged with first-degree murder.
Fine, charge her with something else.
But it would be first-degree murder.
Why not? We live in
because I think that if a woman if she determines that she wants to go and murder her 1-year-old, I think she should be charged with first-degree murder. I don't think that should be the same penalty.
Sure.
As
After
Plan
the
B.
Civil War, all of the Confederate soldiers could have been thrown in prison for treason or hung.
We're not talking about after the Civil War.
No,
very easy. We don't even need an analogy. It's very basic. Lots of people taking Plan B. We don't. It's a simple. It's a simple
It's
thing.
not simple because
it's so simple. It's simple in your view. If a person has an abortion, they're murdering. That's a really simple thing.
But we have we live in a society that has a widespread disagreement about that. And so to come to a national consensus about how we treat the unborn, we're going to have to do that in compromised legal ways, just like America.
Okay, I respect this answer from Trent. We have to, when it comes to punishments, people have different opinions and we have to compromise. So what are we talking about here? It almost comes down to the fact that whether abortion is right or wrong is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Because what we, at the end of the day, we as a society have to decide what we're going to make laws and what we won't. What are the punishments going to be for breaking those laws? Who cares if it's right or wrong? Now, we make laws based on what we think is right and wrong, but ontologically, killing a 2-week-old fetus, to say that's wrong and terrible because it's a human life, a guy like me could just say, who cares? Or I can even agree with you. Yeah, it's wrong, but do it anyhow if you want to. The bottom line is we have to start making laws and thinking about this and punishments. And if you, Trent Horn, are not willing to put a woman in jail or a doctor in jail for first-degree murder, if you're not willing to do that, then you're being a hypocrite and inconsistent. If you would say a woman who kills a 5-year-old should go to jail for life for first-degree murder, then you should be consistent and say a woman who kills a 5-week-old or a 5-day-old blastocyst should go to jail for life, first-degree murder. But I have a feeling Trent Horn doesn't want to say that publicly or go there because he knows these are two different things. He'll say that they're both humans, but when it comes to these punishments, just can't quite go there, can you, Trent? And don't give me the excuses, well, so many times the mothers, they're confused and they really don't know what they're doing. They don't understand they're killing a human. No, don't give me that. There are many, many women, I'd say the majority of women, know exactly what an abortion is, and they do it anyhow. Don't feel sorry for them, Trent. If you're going to be consistent, be consistent. But I think most Catholics, most Christians don't want to go there because they know that most people's moral intuitions would say, it's bad. Woman made a mistake. She's trying to fix her mistake. But she should not go to jail for the rest of her life and be accused of first-degree murder. Because there's a huge difference between a 5-year-old and a 5-day-old blastocyst.
America had to do in Reconstruction after the Civil War when there were massive disagreements in our country. I think we're at a similar crossroad.
That's fine. We can argue that, but that's like a sophisticated political legal argument.
I agree.
And your moral argument, your ideal political legal world is one in which a woman who has an abortion, twins at 14 weeks, is charged with double homicide, double first-degree murder.
We can both do the intuition pumping thing that, because here's the problem. Both,
intuition pumping.
You could say like, oh yeah, like there's the 2-cell embryo. That's crazy to charge that with murder. Well, under your view, killing this thing is not murder. Whereas that's going to really mess with a lot of people's intuitions.
See, this is why I think my speeding analogy is better. Because I agree with Trent Horn here. He's making a good point. I would say it is more wrong to kill that picture and less wrong to kill the picture of that little ball. Just like it is more wrong to go 120 miles an hour in a 75 mile an hour speed limit interstate than going 76. The faster you go, the more wrong it becomes because of the more harm it can do. But to me, killing a 5-day blastocyst is just as wrong as going 76 miles an hour in a 75 zone. It's technically bad, technically illegal, over the speed limit, but nobody's going to prosecute that.
When they see that. So
I think less people's intuitions than those that would say that having a miscarriage. So, for instance, here's another thing. You would agree that every single miscarriage should probably demand an investigation for a potential homicide, correct?
No, we don't do that even for born children. A lot of children
absolutely do.
Oh, yeah, this is great what Destiny did here.
Born child dies, you don't think CPS or investigators are automatically involved in that?
Not necessarily.
Oh, come on. See, this is Trent Horn just like picking like a little bird. for the exceptions or whatever, if a child dies in a home, there's an investigation. And Destiny's making a brilliant point here. If you're going to treat a child the same way ontologically as this, let's say a 8-week fetus or a 4-week fetus, then be consistent, Trent. If a woman is on the toilet and starts bleeding, has a miscarriage, or whatever the situation is, there should be an investigation for murder. Make sure that it's not murder, right? We do this with children. This hits Trent right in the gut of consistency. You do not treat these as the same thing.
One-year-old child dies in a house?
Right.
Of course.
Well, you're going to. Here's the problem here. We have when a child dies, we have the technology to take a newborn and do an autopsy to determine what happened to that human being. Okay. When it comes to a first trimester miscarriage, we don't do those investigations because we don't have the technology for
You
that
absolutely can do those investigations.
yet. How?
A woman comes into the hospital. And
Yeah, someone just mentioned it. Darken, test her for blood alcohol. You can investigate a woman who's had a miscarriage. Does she have drugs in her system? Was she smoking or drinking? Was there any bruises on her? Did she purposely fall down the stairs or whatever? You can investigate this. But I think most people would feel very uncomfortable making laws that says every miscarriage has to be investigated. Just practically, you couldn't do it. There's probably how many miscarriages per day in the United States? Thousands, if not tens of thousands.
miscarries, right?
You mean she is miscarrying, or
she's miscarrying, in the process of miscarrying, right? She has intense stomach pain. She goes to the hospital.
Sure, she goes there, wants progesterone, wants to save the baby.
First thing we should do is we should pull some tubes of blood. We need to check for blood alcohol content, right?
Yep.
Make sure she's not drinking at all. We could probably send somebody to the house to check for, I don't know, any type of thing she might have there, any sort of evidence of foul play. It could be hangers, it could be, whatever else she might be using. But this is an investigation that needs to be done every single time somebody is miscarrying. So you would subject every single woman that's having a miscarriage to a full-on police investigation the same way we would for you mentioned that, for a 1-year-old child, we get an autopsy. An autopsy is an investigation. We're having an investigation to figure out cause of death. But I think that would be a harm that would exist in your world that I think you should fully acknowledge.
It would be a harm but here's the thing, when abortion was illegal, and even now in cases where it is illegal, we don't do those things.
Why not?
Most people don't share that intuition that we need to do that.
Yeah. Why is that we don't share the intuition that we need to do that? Because ontologically, we view them as two different things. Yes, they're both human organisms, but we value a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old way, way, way more than we value a 1-week, 2-week, 3-week-old fetus. We do. You can flap your gums all you want and say they're both ontologically valuable and worth the same. No, you don't believe that. You say it, but you really don't believe that. If you did believe that, you would be nodding your head right now, Trent, to Destiny and say, yep, every miscarriage should be investigated. Yep, because that's potential murder. We got to make sure it's not murder. But you don't talk like that.
In order to protect unborn human beings.
But you would want that you should want that though, shouldn't you?
Yeah, I think that's fine, but you can't determine.
No, not fine. You're weaseling out of that. It's not that it would be fine. Oof. If somebody said, do you think we should investigate when 2-year-old children are killed or when 2-year-old children are dead? My answer, and I don't think your answer would be, yeah, that'd be fine. You would say, absolutely. Okay. I would want that to happen, right?
Yeah.
But your moral standard needs to be the exact same for the 6-week fetus.
But here's the other problem. We would have to make sure that in our zeal to look for crime, we don't...
In our zeal to look for crime. Would you say it that way when a child dies in a parent's home? In our zeal to look for crime. No, this is important, right, Trent? A child has just died. Even if it is zeal, it's appropriate zeal. But you don't have that same zeal for a 5-day blastocyst. I want to get Destiny's reflection on this. I have not seen this before.
Feelings about that abortion debate. I think initially I was confident going in because I watched this video and then I'd been reformulating a lot of my arguments. And then when he introduced himself, I got kind of nervous. I didn't realize did it say he had a master's in philosophy and theology and biology? Did I make that up? Or he had like 3 different master's degrees or something. And I'm like, oh,
Oh, come on, Destiny. You're scared of that? I'm not scared of anybody with a master's in theology or philosophy. Most of them, I actually think Trent can actually communicate well to the common person, the lay person. He can speak fairly normally, but usually it's an advantage to speak to people with a master's in philosophy or theology or whatever.
And I was like, oh God, I'm about to get crushed. And then, wow. I feel like I've tightened up my abortion argumentation pretty well. Yeah, I thought it was going to go a lot different. There's one thing that I need to get a better analogy around. He had hella books and papers in front of him. Yeah, but he didn't reference them ever. I'm so happy I got to flip around that book on him, like halfway through the debate. Holy Jesus. I feel like that was a lot of fun. Sure, but I'm just asking, like, what did the two cell thing look like again? I like the book. Yeah. The zygote. I want to see the thing.
Sure, of course.
Okay. So a woman that takes Plan B to get rid of maybe something like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what's interesting, Trent Horn is willing to have a back and forth with Destiny, but he purposely said not with me. Like, what's wrong with me? I think it has to be because Destiny has a huge following and I don't. I mean, I'm just not big enough. I even did what Trent Horn wanted, a formal debate, which I don't do, but I did it for him, hoping that he would return the favor and come on my show and just have a cordial back and forth like he and Destiny just had. But no. Speak to the hand.
Would suffer the same legal penalty as a woman that murders her 5-year-old child.
You're too right-wing, Doug. No, that's to my advantage. I think Trent Horn is a conservative Catholic. I actually think that now that he knows that about me, the probability of him coming on my show and just having a back and forth goes up. He might even be watching right now and he'd say, yeah, I'd be willing to talk to Doug. But would Trent Horn be willing to have a back and forth like he did with Destiny about religion, about Christianity? Just chilling, just back and forth. He saw me with Randall Rouser. One video. My guess is he hasn't seen all the various videos I have of great conversations with theists. He's picked that one. Doug was so disrespectful. And I was. But there's a backstory to that. And so he doesn't want to talk to me unless there's a moderator.
Show me the 2 cells again. That thing. Wait. Can you open to the page with the 2 cells again? Can you show that one again? Oof. That was a that was a good one. There's one thing that's really hard to explain. We went back and forth on it for a while. I need like a snappier analogy for it. I'm trying to think of what it was. Oh, it might have been like, oh, I remember what it is. The lesser forms of conscious that like babies have, I guess. Like it's something that I need to figure out a way to tighten that up. But yeah.
Destiny, if you ever hear this, I think what you did was perfect with the punishments. In fact, I would concede and give Trent Horn everything he wants. Say it's wrong, abortion's wrong, it's immoral, it's bad. At any stage, just say it. Just concede it. And then talk about punishments. Like you did. And then I think you're done at that point. Because you can tell, you can see it in Trent Horn's eyes, that he does not want to investigate miscarriages for possible murder. He does not want to put women in jail for the rest of their lives for having an abortion, let's say at the 2-month stage. Maybe he does. I don't know. But I think he would be more hesitant to than a woman killing a 5-year-old. Just keep pounding them on the punishments.
Yeah. I will say something that I realized. I got really scared because I realized that he was going on his TikTok rampage. Is when he had like that 10 different questions that he wanted to ask me for his TikTok clips. I wouldn't be surprised he's already made them.
So I have a few questions then. Would it be wrong to cause a healthy fetus to become permanently unconscious?
No.
Okay.
See, I would have just said yes.
So would it be wrong to cause this permanent unconsciousness to use, let's say you could keep growing the fetus into an older body, to use it for organ harvesting, maybe as a kind of sex doll even?
As long as it never became conscious or didn't have the faculty?
Never became conscious.
Correct.
Okay. Related question, but we'll circle back soon. What are your thoughts on fake pornography using AI or virtual images?
Oh yeah, this was a tough one. This is interesting, hypothetical.
Fake child pornography. I'm not going to have a strong opinion on the action itself. It's going to be consequential in nature in terms of like what are the impacts of doing it. So say you create a bunch.
Yeah. So the question is, use AI to make real life 3D videos, images of. Can I say this without this channel being, this video being taken down? You guys know what I'm saying, right? And I would say, this is a tough one because it goes against my moral intuitions. It's like so yucky, icky. But you can ask yourself a very simple question. What would you rather have? If you had this AI making this and it ended up saving lives of children, real children, what would you rather have? I actually think that porn stars should be thanked in society. I truly believe that the violence against women, one of the reasons this has been dropping the last few decades is because of free online porn. So to all you porn stars out there, I salute you. You're doing the Lord's work. No, but seriously, if in 1990, if all the Christians in here, in 1990, if I were to ask you, free online porn is going to come. It's going to be rampant all over the internet. Kids will be watching it. Everybody's watching it. What do you think that will do to violence against women? Go up, go down, stay the same? Most of you Christians in here right now say, in 1990, you'd say, oh, it's going to be terrible. The violence against women is going to go up. There's going to be so many more rapes in society, blah, 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 blah. Don't deny it, Christians. Think back 1990, you would have said that. And guess what? The opposite happened. Do I need to bring up the charts?
And people stop actually abusing children, I'd probably be in favor of it. Say you create a bunch and it leads to an increased harm of children, I'd probably be opposed to it.
You have a practical objection, not an in principle objection.
No, that wouldn't be like a no. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or it's like, this is what he thinks. Would you infinitely rape a corpse with no brain or a human baby, blah, 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 like over and over and over again. But then, so I started to jot down questions as we were talking.
David, I know you're a Christian. You say no, we would say it's a bad thing. Okay, you say pornography is a bad thing, fine. But now I'm going to ask you sort of, I think in your view, a moral dilemma type question. If it were a choice between having online porn and violence against women going up, or no online porn, or having online porn and violence against women going down. This is a hypothetical. Entertain the hypothetical. Don't be scared of it. Choices to be made. Porn, less violence against women. No porn, more violence against women. What would you rather have? And don't say, I refuse to answer this question. This is not a hypothetical that's realistic, blah, blah, blah. No, try to answer the question. See, this is why people don't want to talk to me, because I will ask questions like that. Will force Christians to actually say, yeah, I'd rather have porn. Because that's the right answer, right? Oh, he did it. Look at this. We're building bridges. Good for you, David. I salute you. You're a good Christian boy who's asking for more porn in this hypothetical to reduce violence against women. Well done, good and faithful servant. Like, if there is a God and you die and go to heaven, he's going to say, you remember in 2023 when that atheist guy asked you that question about porn? And you said, yeah, I would rather have porn and violence go down. Good for you, David, because it's all about protecting the kids. It's all about protecting the women. Well done, David. And for that, you can have all the free porn you want in heaven.
I was like, okay, well, I need to have like killer questions to ask him. I should have prepared a list in advance of like, these are the questions I'm going to machine gun out at you in order to like look good, I guess. That's what we're going to do. And I managed to think of like 5 or 6 that I thought were absolutely catastrophic. I can't believe he wouldn't answer any of my hypotheticals.
Yeah. Well, he kind of did, but kind of didn't, Destiny. What he did with your hypotheticals is he just picked at it like a bird picking at food, like finding like any type of weakness in the hypothetical to say, well.
I feel like that was pretty wild. I feel like I'm still trying to figure out like what's an appropriate amount to like push into somebody or not, because I leaned in a lot to like answer this answer. I think I did 3 times on most of them where I'm like, you're going to answer this, you're not going to answer it. But I feel like if I keep doing it, I feel like it makes me look unhinged. But I think I did enough that time. But yeah, the petri dish question, yeah, that was brutal that he wouldn't answer that one straightforwardly. The petri dish one, would you charge a woman with double homicide? He wouldn't answer that one straightforwardly. That was really brutal.
Mm-hmm.
I had the piece of paper in my pocket and I lost it in the airport, but I'd written down.
Okay, and for what I just talked about, porn happens to coincide with the decrease in violence. I know I can't get it bigger. Total rape, sexual assault is the bottom line. All intimate partner violence, rape, sexual assault. And then, hang on. You see this here? This is 1993. Internet porn became, it really started going in the early 90s. Now, you can just call this a coincidence, but I think online porn explains this. See that big drop?
Down 6 questions on that. I'd written down 6 questions on a piece of paper, and I just kept going between those. The I complained, but I answered was funny as I think the audience was either. Well, I literally watched because he said, "Oh, that's when I started to wonder about the bad faith thing." With him not answering my, he wouldn't answer any of my questions. And then he's like, "Well, you didn't answer my questions." Like, motherfucker, I'm watching you check mark the questions. And then I asked him after that because I was really upset that he said that. He's like, "You didn't answer my hypotheticals. Which of these hypotheticals on the piece of paper did I not answer?" Because I answered every single question you gave me, and he didn't answer any of mine. He didn't answer a single one of mine. I wish I didn't lose that piece of paper. I don't know how I did. I dropped it in the airport somewhere. The suicide one, jump off a bridge. Oh, yeah. Would you make it illegal to commit suicide? He really didn't like that one. And then him trying to say that, like, oh, well, should I write these down? Hold on. Actually, let's see if we can remember these. There were 6 questions that I'd written down on a piece of paper. Let's see if you guys can help me. Oh, I remember the other one. Oh, hold on. Would you mandate keeping 64 cell organisms alive for as long as possible in a petri dish?
Yeah, that one.
That was 1. Charge a woman with double homicide if she aborted twins. That was 2. 3. Would you make it illegal in all forms to commit suicide? I remember 4. 4 was, would you mandate a criminal? It has to be a criminal investigation.
Miscarriages.
For every single miscarriage. That was such a good question. Oh my God, that was a brutal question. And he wouldn't answer it. That was a really good one. I think I had 2 more questions. I don't remember the other ones. But anyway, yeah, I'm really upset that he didn't answer. He didn't really engage with any of my...
Yeah, the reason why he didn't answer is because if he answered your questions, honestly, he would be admitting that there's a difference between a 5-year-old outside the womb and a 5-day-old blastocyst. That at a fundamental level, that there's an ontological difference, and they're not worth the same. That's it. They're not worth the same. If they were worth the same, he would investigate every miscarriage for murder. He would put women in jail for denying certain embryos to go in through the process of in vitro fertilization. Throw them down the sink? You threw 3 embryos down the sink? You're now a serial killer. Think about it. If Trent Horn's consistent, every in vitro clinic where a doctor's thrown more than 2 embryos down the sink is technically a serial killer. How many Christians here are willing to go that far? I'm curious. You willing to call in vitro fertilization doctors serial killers? I can understand having an abortion 3-4 months in, bad. But serial killer in vitro doctors, really? You want to go there? Okay, I'm gonna open up the room for about 20 minutes, but don't let me stay past the top of the hour because I got to get ready to go golfing. We'll keep it short. If someone wants to come in, keep it short. I'll answer short. You ask short. And then we'll go to the next person. Let's see, what do I have to do? I have to put on my sunscreen, get changed. That shouldn't take me that long. 53-minute drive. Tea time at 1. Leave at 12. 11:45. I could maybe go to 11, half past. Maybe quarter past. And we can talk about anything. If you want to talk about that transatlantic thing, talk about that too. If you want to talk about Barbie. Barbie. Or if you just want to ask me questions in the live stream chat. Because you're too scared. Oh. How come that's so big? Golf will not be mocked. Exactly. You said that, David, as well. Thing is, you can't even define porn. Pee Wee Herman died? Do you share Destiny's cutoff at consciousness? Yes, I do. I think Destiny and I are basically the same on the abortion issue. The only difference between Destiny and I is if we were to debate it, I'm consistent with the way I treat, like, same with theistic conversations and arguments. I want to give the theists as much as they want. I'd give Trent Horn almost everything he wanted. If you want to say abortion is wrong after conception at any time, okay. Immoral? Sure. Sin? Yes. Now I'll just say, so what? It's all about the laws and the punishments. So what laws are we going to make, Trent? What punishments are we going to give Trent? I think I did answer it. I would say it's wrong if you see a pregnant woman drinking and smoking in a restaurant, I think it's both good and right to think that that's wrong in your head and even say something to shame the woman because you're hurting a living being in the womb. Now, if it's at such a small stage, like let's say she's only 1 week pregnant and she doesn't even know it, that's a different story. But I'm imagining, like, if you're seeing it, you're seeing a bulge, right? So you're seeing it past 20 weeks for sure. How would you steelman Trent's case? I would steelman Trent Horn by saying that in order to be consistent with this consciousness, well, no, that would be steelmanning his rebuttal to Destiny. How do you steelman his case? Humans have value ontologically at every stage of life. And you're the most consistent with that philosophy. So it is wrong to kill the 5-day-old because it is human fact. It is living fact. We as a society should not kill living humans, especially innocent ones, like children, fetuses, blastocysts. They're ontologically valuable. And you know what? I think I agree with him. They are ontologically valuable because they're humans who are alive. They have human DNA. So the funny thing is, me and Trent really don't disagree. Where we disagree with is the practicality of it. Laws and punishments. I would never, ever make a law, support a law, or have consequences of punishment for throwing embryos down a sink, for taking the, what do you call that pill, that if you suspect you're pregnant, you take this pill and then make sure you're not pregnant. I mean, no. But I do think that every abortion is because of a mistake. So we should try to take responsibility and minimize mistakes. You can have all the sex you want, just don't have that type of sex. I'm for abstinence only for that type of sex, especially if you're a teenager. And if you do make a mistake, how you can't even afford to fix it. You might live in a state where it's not legal. You can have all the sex you want as a teenager as long as it's not that type of sex, because you cannot afford that type of mistake. So yeah, and I think the Christians are applauding me right now. It's like, okay, if Doug is advocating second, third base, we can get behind that. Doug's saying be careful with the home runs. We can get behind that. And the thing is, teenage pregnancy rates are dropping too. So we can be optimistic. I agree, Glenn Royer. I do think it's crazy to put that much value on embryos. But it's also crazy, Glenn, let's be fair. It's also crazy to say that embryos have zero value. Right? They do have value. Imagine a scenario where the population of the earth, because of disease or whatever, drops to 20,000 people, and we need more people because we have this goal of repopulating the earth. Embryos will become extremely valuable. One could say 1,000 embryos in a lab is worth more than one child. Like, But now the case is it's the opposite. One child's worth more than 1,000 embryos. It's an issue of the heart, my friend, and also a deeper conversation. Anyone who looks lustfully upon a woman has committed adultery already. It's an issue of the heart. Why does the heart matter? What's love got to do with it? Well, Glenn, we can't avoid that, right? If you want to make it less vague, then you talk about punishments. And that's my advice. Every abortion debate should go straight to laws and punishments. And my advice is to every atheist or pro-choice person out there, I know it's going to be hard for you to do it, but you can say, for the sake of argument, I'm going to agree with you that every killing of a human is innocent life is wrong, including a 5-day blastocyst. Just concede it. Then talk about punishments. Go there immediately. Talk about what Destiny did about miscarriages. Talk about what Destiny did about would you try to keep this 16-cell blastocyst alive as much as you could in the same way you would with a child that's 3 years old who has some type of illness? Show the inconsistencies on this idea of value and punishments. And then slowly but surely, the pro-lifers will realize, you gotta admit, guys like Doug, guys like Destiny are right here. Gotta admit, I'm not consistent here. I do value my 5-year-old child more than my wife just got pregnant, 3 days pregnant. Let's say we had the technology we knew. You're 3 days in. You still value your 5-year-old more than that 3-day-old in the womb. You do. I know it's icky for you to admit it, but you do. And if you think you don't, just take that moral dilemma hypothetical I gave earlier. I'm a dictator, I gotta kill one. Which one would you prefer I kill? Nobody wants to call in? I don't understand the American Cubans question. Is the American Cubans translator here? What do you do if a pro-lifer doubles down on the punishments? Good question. You make a video clip of it and you show the world. So if Trent Horn were to say, yes, if you throw 3 embryos down the sink, the doctor should be charged as a serial killer. Take a clip of it and put it on YouTube and share it all around the world. Because I think most people would say that's nuts. Do you think jailing women for abortion is ever justified? Yes, Tom. I do think jailing women for abortion can be justified if the abortion is like, and this almost never happens, but at 9 months and there's no other mitigating factors, like the woman's life is in jeopardy. So let's say a woman's is about to give birth. even scheduled for a C-section in the 9th-month stage. The day before, I don't know, she aborts it herself or whatever. Then I think in that case it's justified. But again, that almost never ever happens. What is it? Something like 95% of all abortions is in the first trimester. Which one is more valuable, your week-long pregnant wife or your not pregnant wife? The pregnant wife is more valuable. This is so interesting to me. I get the impression that there's some Christians in here who think that I place zero value on a fetus or a baby in the womb. I don't. They have value. That's why killing a pregnant woman is worse than killing a non-pregnant woman. All else equal. What's your opinion on father's rights during pregnancy? Father's rights? I think the father should have a say on whether it's aborted or not. Oh, that goes against the woman's bodily autonomy. But half his genetics is in her. But so far the laws state that the husband just has to, if the husband doesn't want a woman to abort and the woman aborts, right now the laws are such that tough luck. I don't think you can really change it. What is your opinion on impotent men? Do they hold less value than able men? In certain environments, yeah, they do. In certain situations, they do. Again, I can bring up the argument or the hypothetical of the world is down to 20,000 people and the goal is to repopulate the earth. Who's more valuable? A man who has no sperm that's working or a man that is? It's definitely the man who has sperm working, right? Now, in today's day and age, if you're an impotent man, doesn't mean much. In fact, with IVF, if your sperm's not working well, they can find the one good working sperm and implant it directly into the egg. That's what they did with my kids. But basically, in general, to not skirt around your question, in general, men that can do more than other men are worth more. And I know that sounds icky to a lot of you. Are you taking conservative callers or just progressive? Anybody can call in, but I'm running out of time. Like, I got 10 minutes left and then I got to get ready to go to golf. Yeah, just one sperm. We have the technology, Guzman, to, like with me, because my theory is because I worked in the chemistry lab with mercury and lead, that my sperms got clobbered over the head. So they took one of my sperms, one sperm, and they took one of my wife's eggs, and they actually put it right in. They did that 12 times. We had 12 embryos for my son. We told them only to do 4 for my daughter. I'm one of the few people on the planet who's had conception without even having sex. Oh, see, Trent Horn would hate that. That's not the way God intended it to be. This is terrible, terrible. God, in vitro fertilization is a sin. Well, if in vitro fertilization is a sin, if that's wrong, I don't want to be right. Because I love my children. They're beautiful kids. What's my handicap? I don't know, probably 15, 20. It's bad now. I got it down to 12 one time. But now I'm getting to the stage where I'm getting older, so my drive distances are getting smaller. If someone ended another person's pregnancy against their will without hurting the woman, should they be charged with murder? Depends on the stage, I would say. For me, there's clear, like if a woman is 9 months pregnant and the guy or a person says, I want to kill that baby inside the woman's womb. So either poisons her, but somehow keeps the mother alive, but kills the baby, or punches her, or whatever. I would support that person being charged with murder, yes. Now, if it's the woman is like 1 or 2 weeks along, she doesn't even know she's pregnant, well, how would the guy know? Okay, even if you say the guy somehow knew she was pregnant, the charge could be the same, but the punishment would be different. To me, like you can say, yeah, he killed a human life, but the punishment should be different for a 5-day-old, 5-week-old, or a 5-year-old. That's my main point. And to me, I think this is so extremely reasonable. But for people who think that all ontological human life is valuable equally, you're not going to accept that answer, right, from me? You're just going to say, no, we're all created in the image of God. We're all ontologically valuable. But practically, I could ask you hypothetical questions to show that you don't even believe that. You don't believe that all life is equally valuable. You don't. And I can demonstrate that to you.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, some of my live stream chat were hard on you the other day.
They were? I didn't even see.
No, actually in the comments.
Oh, so I should look at the comments?
No, don't look at the comments. No, so I regret even bringing it up.
It's interesting. I mean, look, yeah, that issue is. I think everyone's kind of crazy on that issue. Like, you know, right-leaning people are saying crazy things, left-leaning people are saying crazy things, and then if you're moderate, they both hate you. So it's like a very.
Which issue are we talking about?
The trans issue.
Oh, the trans issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see the transatlantic? Oh yeah, you saw. The
I
whole
did.
thing?
I did see some of that. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's what I used to debate that on TikTok, and then when I started seeing the landscape of how people felt about the issue, how well they could reason about it, I actually got really turned off. And so I don't debate that issue on TikTok anymore. I typically debate the left, like, because I will debate two things, you know, the distinction between sex and gender, and that trans people aren't delusional or not necessarily delusional. After that, I don't like debating about the bathrooms, about the sports. I don't like debating any of that, right? Because I think no one's really level-headed on it. It's very few people are. So I don't really like debating it. But as far as the abortion thing, because like to me, there's something really different about abortion than as compared to healthcare. Because what's interesting about healthcare is that everyone has base values that they agree on. People don't want. We all value all sane people. We all value people not dying of cancer. We all value people having access to a doctor. Like everyone agrees on that. And it becomes at least an empirical issue, a scientific issue. You go to studies to see which systems are good. You go to look at Japan, you look at Denmark, you look at all the, that's what you do. But the abortion debate, the reason why it's so difficult is because people are starting from different values.
Yeah.
And then you're like arguing about your like fundamental preferences. And then what are you supposed to do?
Right? Or they think they're starting from different values.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So when you're talking to a person that's really honest with themselves, it's actually really easy. But the problem is that our values are really pushed by our biases and our like theoretical commitments, whether that be theological or not. And then we start offering up values or reasons that don't actually motivate us, right, as a way of trying to convince the other person. And then becomes a game, a consistency game.
Yes.
Right. Like, and I'm fine with the consistency game. But, when I don't know if you've ever seen me debate about abortion, right? I don't bring up morality. Right. I don't bring up weird notions of value. This is what I tell them. I say, okay, I don't care about things that don't have minds, things that don't look like humans, things that don't have any mental history. I don't care about those things. Okay. And then they lose their minds, right? Because I don't frame it as like this weird, oh, here's my Kantian metaphysical principle that determines this to be right or wrong, or intrinsic value. I think all of that's BS, right? I think that it's useful to talk over someone and use a fancy utilitarian framework, or that I think that's what happens. The reason why normative ethics and philosophy, I think it's pretty successful, is because people look at those theories that they don't adopt, borrow them in debate, and then it's like, and throw smoke into the conversation, right?
Yeah.
But they're not honest with what they care about and what they don't care about.
Well, that's why I think bringing up punishments is very useful.
Yeah. But like I really hate politics for this reason. Because last time I had an abortion debate with this guy named God Logic and Pro-Life Chloe. And I said, these are my preferences. This is what I care about. Right. And they wanted to take it on a level of like objective morality and all this philosophical nonsense. And I'm just like, what? It really throws them out of like, it throws them on a loop. And so then we have to debate. Then they ask me, okay, so if it's a matter of your preferences, why are we here? And I'm like, that's kind of my position. Why are we here? Right? Are you trying to change my preferences? Or am I trying to change yours? Right? Like, if that's what this is, you can show me pictures of fetuses and try to change my preferences, but no weird, obtuse philosophical argument is going to convince me. Right?
Have you ever told them that their belief in objective morality is their preference?
Yeah, I mentioned that. I said, or at least God's preferences. I said that. Oh, they did not like that. They really did not like that. But yeah, I mean, like, you prefer to be in line with God's values. That's your preference, right? And if it's just like, and to me, at least philosophically, it's a meaningless debate.
What do you think about my strategy of just conceding to them that all abortion is wrong and bad, but then talk about, like, well, who cares if they do this bad thing at 5 days old in a petri dish?
I think that's fine. Like, because this is like, they distinguish between the legal and the moral problem, and really, I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be digressing here, Pinecreek. So you can just stop me if I'm digressing. But like, what is the purpose of a law? Like, is it that when someone violates it, you punish them? I really don't know. So let's say abortion is wrong, or I think it's wrong. What does that mean, right, for society? Does that mean that we punish them, or what? Like, who cares, right? Like, if I think it's wrong, like, that's where the conversation might really be, is what should we do about these people that are doing this stuff wrong, right? Because you agree that adultery is wrong, but you're not in favor of punishment. So it's a non-issue. Yeah. Right. So I think that's a good strategy, is because really it's about punishments. What do we do to these people? Yeah. Right. If we do nothing to them, it becomes like an issue about alcoholism or cheating on your girlfriend. Right. It's a non-issue, a non-political issue.
Yeah. And let's say we could actually prove beyond all shadow of doubt with 99% confidence that as abortions increase, crime and poverty decrease. Would you be for abortion? See, and like the Christians would say, no, because it's wrong, We don't care about the practical implications. And that's a big difference between worldviews that I don't know if you can get around that. If they care more about just pleasing Daddy, Yahweh, over the real consequences in real life, then what do you do at that point?
Yeah. I mean, like, what do you do? I mean, like, without changing the subject, right? Because you can change the subject to the existence of God, right? But then we're no longer talking about abortion. So, but yeah, I mean, there was one other thing. Oh, who do you think won that? I didn't really see the whole debate. So what was your assessment? Who won on the Destiny Trent porn thing?
I know people like to frame it that way, but I think they both did well. And so I'd give it a push. I'd give it a tie, honestly. Like, there were things that Trent Horn said that I thought were very good, because for Destiny it was all about consciousness, and I think Trent Horn, I didn't play it, but Trent Horn got I showed some inconsistencies, I think, in Destiny's view, because especially when he brought up animals. And so it was just arbitrary. Why do you give humans this special consciousness and not animals? And so I thought that was very clever and very good of Trent Horn. But Destiny, I think, just nailed it with the punishments. And that's where I think he should go. So I actually agree with both gentlemen. Like,
you know, the comments on that video were very much, they were impressed by Horn. But it might have just been, I mean, I was surprised, at least when I checked yesterday. I don't know if you saw the comments. Because, you know, the comments can kind of tell you, but like tell you what the public opinion was either split, or they were like, wow, there's actually a smart pro-lifer out there. That was, I think, so Horn, in a way, I think Horn, if it's a tie, Horn won. Because Horn is the one that's losing the culture war, right?
No, Horn's winning the culture war on this issue.
On abortion?
Yeah, you saw what the Supreme Court did, right?
What the Supreme Court is not a reflection of culture.
Well, okay. Well, in
Most
a way it is. I know
are-
I know the polling data out there that 60% of people, is it 60%, still want abortion legal. But I think more and more people are realizing that, you know, abortion is not a wanted thing. It is the result of a mistake, that the woman's rights actually do go down as the fetus grows. So it's a competition of rights. Most people feel really icky about aborting a 5, 6, 7 month old. Like, these are pretty standard
right, but
things.
that's not Horn's view at all. Horn's view is, in my opinion, kind of crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Killing a blastocyst is morally wrong and should be first
It's
degree murder.
crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. I agree.
Yeah, and if he tied with a less crazy position, then it's a win to him.
Well, when he did, I think, show some inconsistencies with Destiny's view, which is my view. But the thing is, like, why am I a speciesist? Why do I value Homo sapiens over, let's say, dolphins? I can't answer that question.
Yeah,
the only answer I can give is because I'm programmed that way. I've evolved this way.
Right. I said the same thing to the God Logic. They asked me, why do you care about things that have mental histories? Why do you care about things that have dreams and hopes and aspirations for their life? And I said, it's cost. I didn't choose that kind of preference or those sort of values. And I tried to explain to him, right? You have why do I value going to work? Because I want to make money. I value money. Why do I value money? Because I value supporting my family. Why do you value supporting? You keep on asking. There's no infinite regress, right? There's going to be a point where your values bottom out, and it doesn't make sense to ask the question anymore. And the God Logic people and the pro-lifers don't understand that, right? They don't understand that people's values will bottom out, and it's a stupid question to ask. Give me the argument for your fundamental values. Right? It's a stupid thing to ask. And at that point, you should do the consistency test. So you're like, okay, that's your fundamental value. Fine. Let's see if it's consistent. Let's see if you're contradicting yourself. Let's see how crazy the crazy reductives of your position is. But to ask, I get very frustrated because I was asked that multiple times. Justify your fundamental values. I'm like, what in the world does that even mean, to justify my fundamental values?
Yeah. The thing is, I'm thinking about it more. And I'm thinking maybe Trent Horn actually didn't pick apart inconsistencies in Destiny, because to ask the question, why do you value human consciousness more than animal consciousness? I would say you do too, Trent. Right? Because he does.
But he's going to appeal to further values. He's going to appeal to, I value God's values.
Well, no, he was very careful not to bring God into it.
Okay, well, let's say he did say that. Just aside from the debate, then the question is, okay, why do you care about being in line with God? Is this going to be? I mean, like, you just keep on asking the question, and it goes to, and then it.
Why is sin bad?
Right. Yeah. Or why? And then it gets to the point, like, I don't want to go to hell. Like that's where it bottoms out, right? For many. But you know who I might be debating in the coming months? Michael Jones.
Oh.
They're in talks. I think, agreed. They're just scheduling it, but he's got a complicated schedule.
Doesn't he know that you and I talk and we're kind of friends? Like, he might, if he finds that out, he might not want to talk to you.
Well, we won't tell him.
Yeah, we won't tell him. We won't tell him.
Okay. No, I think I think I'm too small time for him to like actually find like anyone to warn him that this guy is friends with the transphobe, right? Like, that, right?
I'm not, according to someone just told me that yesterday on the line. I'm one of the most famous transphobes in the atheist community. So I got that going for me. I should change on Twitter my profile, most famous atheist transphobe.
Yeah, well, I used to be right leaning before I like on all these issues. But now I'm seeing the debate as what it like. I really look at, while it could still be entertaining, I look at these sort of debates as like not very philosophically interesting. They're psychologically interesting, right? Like it's interesting comparing the different psychologies, who's going to contradict themselves, who has the better rhetoric. That's why I watched the Trent Horn and Destiny thing. That's why I would really. But in terms of like, is there a fact of the matter about what's good, independent of our psychologies? I think that's all, not worth looking into. I think it's all gibberish. But
yeah. Hey, I gotta let you go because I gotta go golfing soon. Take care.
Okay, bye.
I'll take some questions in the chat, tag me, and then I'll get out of here. Yeah, thanks for the golf reminder. Of course, I think my view on abortion is very reasonable, very, dare I say, moderate. My views probably make everybody a little bit mad and a little bit happy. I'm for personal responsibility, so do everything you can to prevent an unwanted pregnancy. If we can do that, then the whole abortion debate goes away. If we could do that perfectly. But we're not perfect people. How much is abortion debate political? Actually, Mitesh Patel, I would say it's not that political. The abortion debate is one of those, in quotes, political issues that's not that political. It is usually worldview based. It's more theological based. Yeah, thanks for the advice. I gotta stay hydrated. Last time I golfed in 108-degree weather and I had to stop at hole 15, 16. I told my golfing partner, my goal here is just to stay vertical. I didn't want to die that day, so I stopped. Yeah, get your uncle to call in on Thursday. Are you a transphobe? No. Some of my best friends are transgender. My dad's transgender. No, I'm kidding. That's a Seinfeld joke. But I'll admit, I kind of like it to be called a transphobe by people from the line, which will infuriate them. Because it lets them know, you can think the worst thoughts about me, you can hate me, and I'm strong enough to take it. Why don't you be more like me? Be more like Pinecreek, where people can hate you and you're okay with it. I kind of said yes to Jerome. If people were taught at an early age to realize that not everybody in the world is going to like you, love you, some people were going to hate you, that your value and your identity should not be subject to the whims of society, of strangers you don't know, you really think a lot of transgender people would be mentally anguished as much? No, I agree. If your own family is disowning you, that's rough. And this is where the true compassion in me comes out. I cannot imagine everybody in my family who I love hating me. That is bad. That's terrible. I get that. But me, even if I hated trans people, so what? I'm a stranger to you. Well, you're going to make laws, Doug, against us and to kill our existence. I don't want anybody to hurt people physically or kill people. But if people say things that hurt your feelings, that you got to get over. Because I do that with Christians, I do that with Muslims, I do that with Mormons. If I say things that make you sad, that's a you problem, not a me problem. This is how we figure out what is true. This is the arena of ideas, why we debate to figure out what's true. And sometimes these things that are debated are highly uncomfortable to your own psyche. You need to learn to become stronger, get stronger, get stronger. Poof. Hallelujah, amen. Pass the offering plate.